Any semantic theory must give an account of word and sentence meaning. We are attuned in everyday conversations, not primarily to the sentences we utter to one another, but to the speech act that those utterances are used to perform: requests, warning, invitations, promises, apologies, predictions, and the like. Such acts are staples of communicative life, but only became a topic of sustained investigations, at least in the English-speaking world in the middle of 20th century. Since that time, speech act theory has become influential not only within philosophy, but also in linguistics, psychology, legal theory, artificial intelligence, literary theory, and feminist thought, among other scholarly disciplines. Dear students, my name is Budi Pranoto, and this is the topic for today: speech act and event. As we finish discussing the meaning under the discussions of semantic, now we are entering the next level of the discussions of meaning. Will be discussing about pragmatic, and our focus today is about speech act. So in this lecture, I'll be covering the three aspects in speech act. The first one is about the idea and also the concept of speech act. And the second part is about the type of speech act. And the last one is about the analysis of speech act. Any semantic theory must give an account of word and sentence meaning, explaining the nature and the relations between them. Yet, such semantic theory has little to say about any other than standard declarative sentences or about semantic aspect involving conversations. So, in this lecture, I'll be discussing about the distinctions between how we see sentence or how we see word as it functions, and also how we see them, how they are placed in certain contexts, and how they function to serve certain action. The modern use of term pragmatic goes back to the American philosopher Charles William Morris, who defined pragmatic as the study of relations of sign to the interpreters. Thus, we need to make the distinctions between the usual meaning of word or sentences and the meaning it has in specific circumstances. That is, we need to differentiate between meaning and use. I'll give you an example. The sentence, "It's fairly hot in here." There are several understandings in this sentence that we can take it as a piece of information only, but also we can take it as a piece of request or even as a piece of a word that represent an action. The sentence "It's fairly hot in here," if we discuss under the discussion of semantic, we can say that the sentence refers to the situations where maybe there is a person who is sitting in a room and the temperature in that room is not normal. It's higher than normal. They say, therefore, that person utter these utterances. But if we see the sentence as the function of the sentence in that specific context, we can say that maybe the person asking for someone to open the door, because by opening the door we can let air enter the room, so it can reduce the temperature in that room. Or maybe because we have air conditioner in that room with an electricity, maybe that person asking another one or someone to turn on the air conditioner. Therefore, under the discussions of pragmatic, we see sentence not only as a piece of information, but also as the representations of certain actions uttered by the speaker. Famous little book entitled "How Do Things with Words," published in 1962 by John L. Austin, pointed out that a large number of utterances are part of the actions. So when people say something, they are actually representing certain actions that they have in mind, and they hope that the intended meaning is captured by the listener or the participant in that conversation. So, what is speech act then? By definitions, Searle in 1969 defined a speech act as an act that the speaker performs when making an utterance. So Searle believed that when people say something, they are actually doing something as well. In the same hand, Yu in 1966 explained that speech act is an action performed in saying something. So you are performing something while you are saying something. So there are kinds of speech act according to those expertise. They they can be categorized as apology, and then complaint, compliment, invitations, promise, or even request. Take a look at this example. The sentence "I pronounce you husband and wife" will have more than an information because it represents a social change. In understanding an utterance, we need to consider aspects surrounding the utterance. For example, the location, the person who uttered that, and also the situations where the utterance is being uttered. Take a look at this example. As you can see in the pictures, we have a wedding ceremony. There are male and female, and also there is a priest. The priest uttered, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." That sentence has more power rather than a piece of information because as the priest finished uttering the sentence, the social status of the female and also the male in that picture is changed. They are not girlfriend and boyfriend anymore, but they are now husband and wife. But the same utterance will not have the same power if it is uttered by someone who is not entitled to do so. I will not have the same power to change the social status of that female and also that male because I don't have the capability because I'm not a priest. I'm not socially acceptable to have the power to pronounce someone to be husband and wife. I give you another example. The second example here is the sentence "I sentence you to death." This sentence will only be powerful if it is uttered by a judge in a courtroom with specific situations when there is a suspect and there are other components that can complete a courtroom. I will not have the same power than the judge to change the social status of that man. Before this sentence, that man is a free man. But after the sentence, after this sentence, this man is no longer free. This man is now a prisoner. The social status of someone is being changed by an utterance. Therefore, it is in line with the statement of Searle confirming that most of our utterance in our daily life are included in action. Another example, the sentence "you are fired" uttered by a boss as the act of ending employment. Before this sentence, you are an employee to a certain company, but because you do a mistake or maybe you violate certain standard operational procedure or ethic code, your boss said this to you, "You are fired." After the sentence, you are no longer an employee, but you are someone who is no longer being part of the company. You cannot represent the company. You are not entitled to that company anymore. You are jobless. Therefore, sentence is not only an utterance, but also an action. So, we can say that one sentence can generally be uttered to perform a wide variety of different acts. It depends on who utters it and where, when, and why it is uttered. The circumstances surrounding the utterance help to understand, and these circumstances, including utterances, are called as speech event. So, everything that happened or everything around an utterance, we can call them as a speech event, or simply we can also consider them as context, because we can include what is unsaid as part of what is said because we understand the context of that utterance. So this student, the next part is about how to analyze a speech act. According to Austin in 1962, speech act can be analyzed into three levels. The first one is locutionary act, the second one is illocutionary act, and the third one is perlocutionary act. So the first one is locutionary act. what is it about? So locutionary act focuses on the act of saying or what is said by the speaker. So locutionary act is defined as saying something meaningful or constitutive or informative. For example, the sentence I like English subject can be taken as locutionary act because we only look at it as a sentence or as the act of saying. Or another example, when people say it's hot in here or it's so cold in this room, we take it as locutionary act because we consider it as a piece of information only, or the actions of people saying it. That's what we call as locutionary act. And the second level, we call it as illocutionary act. In this level of analysis, we see that utterance being said by speaker as something that has intention. So there is an intention in the speaker's utterance, and there is a force which is called as illocutionary force. For example, oh my God, I forgot to bring my wallet. You say this next to your friend after you finish your lunch. By saying this, yeah, oh my God, I forgot to bring my wallet. Yes, this is the locution. But also, there is an intention of you saying that because maybe you are asking your friend to pay the fare because you forgot yours and later you will replace them. Yeah, you will repay back to your friend because you forgot to bring your wallet. So there is an intention. So the idea of intention here is the focus of illocutionary act analysis. So we need to see the intentions of the speaker in uttering the sentence. Another example from the sentence, it's hot in here, we can see that there is an intention. What are the intentions? The first, it could be an indirect request for someone to open the window because we understand that when a room is hot, we can open the window, we can let air enters the room so it can make the room more comfortable. Or maybe it is an indirect refusal to close the window because at that moment or the event where the utterance is being uttered, we are in a room where the window are all open. So this is indirect request that please do not close the window. If you close the window, then the room will be hotter. The second example, it is so cold in this room, so it could be indirect request for someone to close the window or to turn off the air conditioner. Or maybe a complaint implying that someone should know better than to keep the air condition on. So there are several possible meaning or intention that can be taken from an utterance because we need to consider the context, we need to consider the condition where the utterance is being uttered and who is uttered the utterance. The last part is perlocutionary act. This act is saying something to get the effect, or the effect is to frighten, for example, to threat, to make other people obedient. So we have locution as the act of saying, and then we have elocution as the intention, and the last one we have perlocution as the goal of what is being uttered. Usually, it is stated by using the imperative sentence or direct speech act because the force is so big. For example, sit down and listen to me carefully. Remember, do not cheat. So even though that speaker has an intention and also has a goal, but sometimes people who listen to that utterance may act differently. But that doesn't really relate it to the idea of perlocution because the idea of perlocution is about how the speaker wants his utterance being heard and also being taken by the listener. So for example, perlocution is simply called as the effect of what is said. So when you say open the window please, we'll see the effect of that action. So maybe someone is opening the window or maybe someone is doing something else. It depends on your capacity or the capacity of that person in that context. If that person is maybe the head of certain group of society, when he says something, the subordinate will follow and also will execute what is being asked. So close the window or turn off the air conditioner please. That's the perlocution, and we'll see the effect of that utterance. In understanding the power and also the effectiveness, or maybe whether or not an utterance is successful, is we need to consider felicity conditions of performative speech act. So felicity condition can be taken as a condition where everything is there in order to achieve certain goal of communications. So in this speech act, we have several aspects of felicity conditions in order to perform a speech act. So the first part, that the subject must be I. For example, starting from today, I fire you, or you are fired. And then the second one, the person or people should be appropriate. For example, the priest to the couple. In the sentence, I pronounce you husband and wife, because I cannot do the same because I'm not a priest. Or in the sentence, you are fired, I cannot say it to you because we are all employee. I cannot fire my co-workers. The one who can fire an employee is the boss or the employer. So the next one is the form must be in present tense. Yeah, you need to use present tense in order to follow the felicity conditions. And the last one, using IFIT, or we call it as illocutionary force indicating devices, or verbs. For example, declare, name, fire, promise, pronounce, and complain. And then sentence, divorce, apologize, baptize, object, and etc. The last part is about type of speech act. I take the type of speech act from John Searle in 1932, that there are 4 types of speech act. The first one is representative, the second one is commissive, the third one directive, and the last one is expressive. Let's discuss one by one. Representative, or also known as constantive, involve or represent a state of things. These are assertions, announcement, statement, claims, denial, disclosure, and etc. For example, sentence is, I like cheese. So it is a statement that you love cheese, or maybe this is a denial when someone offers you a food other than cheese. The second one is commissive. As the name suggests, it commits the speaker to do something, and these are performative. For example, promises, pledge, pose, guarantees, and so on. For example, the utterance, I'll pick you up at 8 p.m. is commissive, because you are committing to do something and you are the speaker. And the third one is directive. Directive are designed to get the listener to act in some ways. These are admonishment, question, dismissal, excuse, instructions, orders, requests, warning, and etc. The example to this type is that I dare you to eat that entire bowl of wasabi. So it is asking someone to do something, like you challenge someone to do something, you request someone to do something. The last one is expressive, also known as acknowledgement. This type of speech act lets speaker convey their attitude or psychological state. Remember, it has to do with psychological state of the speaker. These are apologies, condolences, congratulations, greetings, thanks, and so on. The focus here is about the psychological state of the speaker. So the sentence, I'm sorry to hear about your mom's illness, is an expressive because it conveys your psychological conditions about one's conditions. You tell the listener about what is you're feeling about. Therefore, it is expressive. You express your feeling. So those are 4 types of speech act according to John Searle in 1932. So dear student, this is the end of our lecture today. I hope by finishing the topic today, you will understand how to draw the distinctions between analysis of meaning under semantic and also pragmatic, and also you can differentiate between types of speech act, and lastly, you can analyze a speech act. Thank you.
Terima kasih sudah menyaksikan video pembelajaran ini. Jangan lupa like, komen dan subscribe, serta nyalakan tanda loncengnya agar kalian tidak ketinggalan informasi update lainnya.